Imagine an alternate reality for just a second. A reality where India never actually had an Independence Day. And no, not because Britain still rules it, but because Britain never showed up in the first place. Let's dive right into this explainer and see exactly what that world looks like.
In this timeline, August 15th, 1947, is quite literally just another Tuesday. There's no iconic midnight speech by Jawaharlal Nehru. There's absolutely no sudden drawing of borders by a British lawyer who, by the way, had never even set foot in the country. This means no partition, no 10 million people displaced in a matter of 40 days, no ghost trains arriving at stations full of the dead. None of that horror ever needed to happen. But here's the catch. In this alternate world, India actually isn't one single country. It's four distinct, powerful, competing nations dominating the subcontinent. We're talking about the Maratha Empire, the Sikh Kingdom, the Bengal Trading State, and the Mysore Empire. They're all competing, they're all trading, and they are completely unimaginably rich. Why? Well, because nobody ever came in and took anything from them.
Let's flash back to the 1600s for a minute to introduce our antagonist. At this point, India is producing roughly a quarter of the entire world's wealth. They're forging superior steel, they're weaving muslin cloth so fine it's literally called woven air. It can pass right through a single ring. Enter Britain, or more specifically, a tiny entity called the British East India Company. Now, they didn't arrive with a massive invading army, they arrived with businessmen, making one very simple request: let us trade. And India, sitting comfortably at the top of the global food chain, said sure.
What followed was an absolutely insidious 150-year corporate playbook. The company managed to do something no invading army had ever pulled off. They turned India's own internal divisions against itself. We're talking backing rival sides to collect favors, lending money to gain immense influence, and literally buying the result of a battle before a single sword was even swung.
Which brings us to the Battle of Plassey in 1757. Literally bought, not fought.
So, at this so-called battle, the opposing commander was simply bribed before the cannons even fired. Just like that, a trading company decided the political fate of Bengal, the absolute wealthiest region in India, without a real war. Just look at this terrifying escalation, from politely asking to sell cloth in 1600 to collecting all of Bengal's taxes by 1765. Fast forward to the 1850s, and this single company is deploying a private army of over 200,000 soldiers. A cloth company had mutated into a full-blown government that made laws, ran prisons, and answered to absolutely no one except a few shareholders in London.
And a government that answers to shareholders means one thing above all else: extraction. Let's just take a breath for a second here, because we're about to look at an economic transfer on a scale that the modern world has almost zero comparison for. $45 trillion. According to historical estimates covering 1765 all the way to 1938, that is the exact amount of wealth extracted from India. Let's try to put that unprecedented scale into perspective. That is 15 times Britain's entire annual economy today. 15 times!
But a massive number like that kind of hides a really devastating human reality. That $45 trillion, that's the deliberate collapse of Bengal's world-renowned textile industry. British-made machine cloth was intentionally priced super low, while Indian cloth was heavily taxed until it was completely uncompetitive. The master weavers of Dhaka, whose families had produced that woven air for generations, they were literally forced into farming just to survive, purely because the market for their life's work was intentionally destroyed.
And the historical record shows this happened while India was actually actively exporting food to Britain. During the 1943 Bengal famine, somewhere between 2 and 3 million people died of starvation. When asked to send emergency grain, Winston Churchill refused, stating that Indians were to blame for, quote, breeding like rabbits. That is exactly what $45 trillion looks like when you replace the numbers on a balance sheet with human lives.
Okay, let's snap back to our alternate reality, the one where Britain never even arrives. In this world, all that wealth, it never leaves. The artisans keep weaving, the farmers keep their food. India likely undergoes this totally organic industrialization, grown entirely from its own ancient mathematical and metallurgical traditions, rather than some British design. The English language probably never spreads. The railway and legal systems, they would take completely different, totally unpredictable paths.
So this alternate India is undeniably wealthier, and definitely healthier, but here is the massive twist. Is it one country? The reality is,
Without the shared wound of colonization, the unified democratic nation of 1.4 billion people we know today, it probably doesn't exist at all.
Think about it. Being taxed by the same foreign company, being humiliated by the exact same foreign laws, and being ruled by the same foreign power, that is exactly what created the Indian nationalist movement. That shared wound is what forged the very idea of being Indian first. Without it, the Marathas just remain Marathas. The Sikhs remain Sikhs. Someone in Bengal has absolutely no historical reason to join a country with someone from Mysore.
It honestly completely changes how we view history. Let's revisit Jawaharlal Nehru's famous 1947 speech, where he spoke of a tryst with destiny. What's really fascinating here is the silence in those words, because 1947 was never a beginning. It was a recovery from broken industries, totally preventable famines, and $45 trillion completely gone. And yet from that incredibly exhausted, violently partitioned starting point, they still somehow managed to build the world's largest democracy.
If India was never colonized, there's no doubt it would be a much richer place. But the ultimate question remains, would the one nation, one constitution, and 1 billion people you know today exist at all? Or would it take being broken together to finally become one?